On this call, we have myself, CEO and founder of NewGait. As you guys know, Danielle George, of course, the star of the show right
Oh,
now,
yeah.
and Sue Goldstein, her PT. I've also invited Dr. Chandramouli Krishnan, Dr. Krishnan, and he is actually our lead or our principal investigator in our stroke research that we're doing.
Oh,
We have an
awesome.
NIH funded grant with the University of Michigan. And so we are working with Mali and some other collaborators at UMich as well as Wayne State University. So I gave just a brief little intro on everyone, but I'll let everyone introduce themselves if I did not do you justice. So please, let's start off with Mali. You could just introduce yourself, and then we'll go around to Sue and then Danielle.
Oh, I don't have that person.
Hi, so I'm Mauli. I'm an associate professor at the University of Michigan, and I direct the neuromuscular and rehab robotics lab. So perhaps in my background you can see that it's neuro lab with a double R. Often people think that is a spelling mistake, but it's rehab robotics, so R and R. My research specifically focuses on low-cost technologies for rehab. I'm a physical therapist by background, and so a lot of technologies that we develop often don't end up in the clinic, and one of the major barrier is cost. And so that is one of the interests that I had in NewGait because it's low cost, easily
Okay.
accessible, and portable, lightweight, right, and so forth, right? So that's kind of the research area that I work on. I study individuals with stroke. I also study knee biomechanics, sports injuries, and sports medicine related stuff. And so I have active projects and NIH funded projects on both areas.
All right. And then Sue, if you'd like to give just a little brief background intro on yourself.
Sure. My name is Sue Goldstein. I'm a physical therapist. I live in Connecticut and I work at Gaylord Specialty Healthcare in Wallingford, Connecticut. I have been here working, I have done inpatient and outpatient work, and presently I'm an outpatient and I've been here for almost 38 years. I've worked with all different kinds of patients, various diagnoses, mostly neurologically based. My specialty is working in aquatic therapy. I'm an aquatic therapist, so I work in the gym as well as in the pool. And I have treated Danielle in the past and then recently as well.
All
Cool.
right. And then Danielle, if you want to give just a brief intro on yourself, we'll do a deeper dive, obviously, in the interview.
Sure. I'm Danielle George. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I live in Connecticut and I have for about 19 years now. While I've been here 10 years ago, I suffered a hemorrhagic stroke. I was a high school teacher, high school Spanish teacher, and I have two boys. They're not boys anymore, they're men. They're 27, 24. I still call my
Oh,
boys. And my husband and all four of us live here in Connecticut. And I no longer work ever since my stroke because I have balance issues. And obviously, speaking a language, I don't have very good enunciation of the language, the porn language anymore. So I'm home.
Yeah, let's get going. So Danielle, tell me a little bit more about how your stroke affected your lifestyle and your family.
Well, my lifestyle, I'm no longer working. I don't drive. Although in the summertime, I will a little bit. I say the summertime because when it gets cold out, I tend to get stiff on my left side. So it's not really great for driving. My reactions are off a little bit. So I wait until the summertime and I just drive a little bit and locally. So that has really changed. Before that, I was pretty independent. As you can see behind me, I do crafting and I am a direct sales representative. Like I used to go to people's homes and do parties. And in the last 10 years, they have mostly come here because I no longer can drive to their homes. That has impacted me as well as working. I did try to go back to work about 6 months after my stroke, but it proved to be difficult, like with teenagers in the hallway and, not great balance and everything. And in personal life, I would say with family, like I depend on my husband for everything. I noticed that my muscles are much weaker now because I haven't really used them. And so I can't like lift things. I always have to have someone lift things, take things to the post office because I'm not driving. Walking, I'm constantly holding on to my husband's arm, and I'm really bad with mobility devices like canes. I'm just not, I don't know, I don't have the coordination. And my balance has just been issues. It's hard for me to do things around the home a lot, even to vacuum. You know how you step on the little lever to make it recline? That's hard for me to do without almost falling over. I have to brace myself. So it's for a very confident, independent person. It has really changed that dynamic for me. It's like no longer as confident, obviously not as independent.
Tell me a little bit more about the rehab that you received, post stroke up until you were introduced to the NewGait.
Okay. When I first had my stroke, I went to an inpatient therapy at a hospital for about a month. And then I went almost immediately after returning home, I went to outpatient therapy. And during that first, 6 months, I was walking pretty well. I was able to like side shuffle. And then it got colder and my therapy ended. I wasn't driving to an adaptive gym anymore because it got colder. And I think my muscles just kind of atrophied a little bit. And then by the end of that spring, now this would be like the first year and a half after my stroke. By the time that spring came around, I was very off balance. Like we had gone to the doctor again, make sure I didn't have another stroke or something. But it was all just physical. And so I have been to therapy 3 different places, including Gaylord, over the last 10 years, probably about 5 or 6 times. And this last time, it was just me who initiated it. I had asked if she was willing to try this new thing that I saw. I was just hell bent on doing it. And that's where we are now. I'm using it every day. I put it on around the house because it kind of grounds me and keeps my balance so I can do things around the house easier. Probably 3 times a week, I've been walking with my husband outside with the whole thing on. I tend not to wear the harness in the house. I find that the gait belt and the bungee cords that are right like from my hips really do a great job pulling down and grounding me. But I find the shoulder harness, I think I need a bigger one. Really poor posture. It's helpful for that. But at the same time, I'm really tight back here. I think I need a bigger one, but it's good. It has boosted my confidence because I'm walking now. The longest I walked was 8/10 of a mile. And I did it all without holding on to my husband's arm. So that was like incredible.
And what were you doing prior? So just for
always
comparison.
held on. I would always hold on to his arm. And in the case that I did not, I couldn't go very far. I would veer, like I tend to veer to one side. I was good just standing. If he would, I'll drop you off, I'll go park the car. I would say no, because I knew that I couldn't stand still and wait for him all that time without losing my balance. I would like hold on to a wall. People would be like, okay. Now I feel like I can stand and have a conversation when I'm wearing it. And then when I take it off, most times, not always, I'm not there yet, but most times I feel that I can apply that groundedness. Like I know to put weight back in my heels and not forward, to scrunch up my toes and cling to the ground. It's good.
Danielle, before you got the new step, were you taking walks at all, even holding on to your husband?
No, I mean, very rarely he would say that. And I would not make it long. And I'd always hold on to him. And it's hard because, well, you've seen me walk and I would veer towards the right. My elbow would hit his ribs all the time. It's going on for 10 years. So it's nice not to be able to hold on to him when I have that on.
And just so I can understand the time frame, how long have you been using the NewGait? How long in therapy, and then how long since you've been using it at home?
Well, Sue, you had a 30-day free trial, right? So
Yes.
that was about a month. No, it was longer
We
than that.
we had, let's see, I started seeing you in February of this past year. And I believe by the end of February,
You have
we
it.
we had it. And then I saw you until the beginning of May, the end of April or
Okay.
so.
And so at
And
the
we
end of
are,
April, I had my own.
yeah, and we actually had extended the 30-day. We got 60 days, so I was seeing you for a while. But once you got your own, then we were just using that one.
Yeah. So a
Wow.
couple months here,
Wow. Well, and now are you still in therapy with Sue right now?
No.
Well, and tell me how you found out about NewGait, because it's always interesting to hear how people find out about it.
Yeah. It really was just luck. I had told Sue that like this happened to me 10 years ago. I have never joined a stroke support group. And one time, I think it was through Gaylord, I got an email about it, and they had like seated exercise or adaptive exercise. And I thought, well, I want to, join this group. So I've never officially been on this group other than I'm receiving emails about different things that they have. And I got an email that said, okay, here are the classes we offer. You may want to check out other links. And one of them was called nostroke.org, KNOW. And so I clicked on it just to see what was out there and read things. And they had some podcasts. And one of them caught my eye because the word gait was spelled GAIT. And I thought, what's this? I watched that podcast. That was it. And I just went through the internet, Google, anything I could find on you, videos. And I was like, that's it. I want to try that.
You had your stroke 10 years ago, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there were other devices that you may have used, or whether
Mm-hmm.
that's an AFO or other
Mm-hmm.
assistive device. Has there been any other devices that you have used, and how has that gone?
Well, I have used a rollator. I don't like it because I tend to hunch over. I also kick the wheel with my left foot a lot. So, and I feel like it will tip actually because of the way I'm leaning. So I don't feel, steady with that. I've tried a couple different canes. Like I said, I'm just terrible at it. I don't know why. Like I put the cane out really far and I shouldn't. It's just not good. I had an AFO. I told Sue I didn't like it. I stopped wearing it because I had lost my balance back in September and fell. And now this is not the first time I've done that, but this time really hurt. And I think the reason was because the AFO held my left leg and ankle so stiff that it couldn't bend when I needed it to. And so I took a harder fall, I think, than I ever had before. And so I stopped wearing that on my own. And I have a mobility scooter, which I do still use, like in any place that I have to go for on vacation, a lot of walking that I can't keep up with people.
Now, with the NewGait, what do you think, or what do you feel the NewGait is doing to help you? Or how do you feel like it is helping you?
As I spoke with you before on the phone, it just makes sense. Like the resistance bands, I feel like I do a what's it called, Sue? Circumduction or
Where your leg comes out around the
yeah,
circumduction on your left leg when you walk and with the stairs.
yes, thank you. I tend to use a green band there or a red one at least because it's stronger and I feel that it controls it a little bit more. The neat thing about the NewGait, when Sue first put it on, she put the harness on me and then everything clicked. And as I said before, when I have at least the gait belt on, the cords from the hip, I feel it's just like pulls me down and I feel so grounded with that. That's number one. It helps with my posture. It's just not normal gait if you're like all hunched over. I need things to be aligned. So it helps keep things in line. But I can also get immediate feedback with the cords. For example, recently I was walking, my husband videoed, and I watched it. I'm like constantly in this mini squat. So I try things. And you know what? I think that the cord in the back, from the back of the gait belt behind my leg, it was like preventing me, I think it was preventing my left leg from fully extending like I would on my right leg. You know, when you step and you do heel toe and load on it, the left was never doing it. So I was getting these little choppy steps, and I knew maybe that was partially me, but I think it was the bands also. You know, they were preventing me. So I was fighting against it. So I took it off, and I haven't been wearing that. But then yesterday I had it on around the house, and I was like, I wonder if I should take that one off that's pulling up on my toe. So I play with it, and I get immediate feedback like that. I think that's really neat. I mean, my husband said, well, can you even tell when you switch things? And I can. I'll say something's not right, something's pulling, or it's not strong enough. And I just adjust it. I'm not pretty when I walk, you know, but I'm walking and I'm not holding on to his arm. And that's, I think it will only get better. Just retraining my body and putting it where it should be, putting things in place where it should be, like my hips and shoulders aligned, or controlling that circumduction, that kind of thing. It's really neat.
Grounded. We've heard that a lot. A lot of wearers of the NewGait have said that, where they feel like the unit is making them more grounded. And so it's
Definitely.
very interesting to hear you use that exact phrase and that exact terminology. And the fact that you're tweaking it, that's part of the beauty of the system, is that it is versatile. And if you have a configuration, you're not stuck with that, because people change. People change day by day. Some days are easier than others, but also as they progress, people change. And so the unit is able to adapt to that. And you know, you sound like you're very in tune with your body, and you're very in tune with what's going on. You know, you feel all of those different cord adjustments, all those different elastic band adjustments, and you're able to do that. Kudos to you for sure for being able to do that. Now, I want to actually hear, Sue, your perspective, you know, as a physical therapist, on the changes that you have seen within Danielle. It sounds like you've seen her in the past, and you know, you've kind of seen her maybe progress a little bit. And so tell me a little bit about, you know, when you first saw her, and then also, you know, this newest bout of therapy sessions and her progression with the NewGait.
Sure. One of the biggest things that Danielle wanted to do and achieve, her main goal, is she wanted to walk next to her husband without holding him, to do it herself, not to fall and feel steady, and to be able to walk outside on some uneven terrain. She also wanted to be able to do some gardening. She wanted to be able to stand still. Well, I don't even know if you realize that that was your goal, but as soon as you put the NewGait on, we were talking about how you were feeling, and she said, oh my gosh, I've been standing here for a few minutes. I have not lost my balance, and I can talk and balance at the same time. Yeah. And she was amazed when she realized it, because she has not been able to do that at all. Like she says, if she's waiting for her husband, she had to hold on to something. But with the NewGait, she was able to balance, shift her weight, talk, turn her head, and stay there for a few minutes without losing her balance. One other thing that you have been dealing with is a lot of ataxia. In other words, your body shakes a lot, your legs, your upper body, your core. Once you have the NewGait on, it gave you stability and helped to control that shaking, that ataxia, so that you call it grounded, you had that stability to be able to move and to be able to walk. And if you lost your balance, you have the ability to catch the balance and regain it, whereas before you did not. The biggest thing I see is that you have a lower risk of falling and a lower risk of losing your balance and hurting yourself. You've had a lot of falls in the past. And when I had seen you in the past, there wasn't really anything that we found that helped you with that. And I know that you were frustrated. and you felt like, well, this is the way it's going to be. You felt like you plateaued. And I also felt like you had plateaued when I had seen you a few years ago. When you emailed me back, I believe, in January, you just sounded so excited about what you saw. You wanted me to check it out. I immediately checked it out online. And I saw some people that were very similar to you that were using the NewGait device. And so I immediately agreed to be trained, do the online training. We were able to do the trial. And I'm excited to say that since Danielle has used it, I've had other patients of mine use it. One of my patients purchased the dorsiflexion assistance for one of his legs, also after a stroke. And I'm still seeing him, and he likes it so much better than the brace. So he's not using the AFO anymore. We have had many other therapists use the device with other patients of all different abilities, all different sizes, all different abilities of strength. Some people use a walking device, some people don't, but they've all had very, very good success. We have since been approved by our outpatient department to get a full NewGait device to use in our clinic, as well as to use it in 2 of our other satellites as well, using it with orthopedic-based issues as well as neurological-based issues. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm so glad that you were able to teach other people as well. I led an in-service 2 sessions where Danielle came to one of the sessions and talked about the benefits that she noticed. You talked about how you were using it at the time, what your goals were, and what you had achieved. And the therapists were able to ask you questions, and you're able to teach them what you've learned and how it's benefited you. And because of that, right after the in-service, within an hour, people were kind of practically fighting over, okay, who's going to use it? I want to try this. And over the few weeks after that in-service, I had some cancellations on my schedule. So anytime that someone was using it, I would go out to the clinic and help them to figure out the best way to use it for the patients based on what I learned from you. And the therapists were able to also tweak the bands, tweak the position, add different color bands because of what I learned working with you as well. And I think the more the physical therapists use the NewGait system with various patients and various symptoms that we're working on, various deficits, the more that we see the benefits overall. Since we haven't received our unit that we are going to order soon, that we got approval for, we did give it back after our trial period. And Benga was nice enough to give us an extra 30 days, so we kept it for 60 days. And when I sent it back, for days after that, the therapist said, "Where's the NewGait? Wait, I wanted to use it with this patient." This patient was counting on using it. He loved it. So that tells me that we are doing the right thing to use NewGait with our patients and to really see good functional benefits as well.
I've got to say, this was almost a perfect storm of the right clinician and the right patient. The right clinician with the kind of go get it mindset, and then the right patient with the I'm willing to do, whatever it takes to help myself get better, despite my injury happening, my stroke happening 10 years ago. And so kudos to you, Danielle, for just having that resilience, and kudos to you, Sue, for for being so open-minded. Your open-mindedness just reminds me of my clinician. You met Kim, you met Lynn, and I remember, when I saw you for the first time, Sue, over Zoom, we were at CSM, so, my team, we were all together in the same location, and you were willing to get trained. It was late for you. You're on the East Coast, and I think it was the evening for us. And so it was very late for you. And so that was just extremely, extremely impressive. And it takes therapists like you really to help patients like Danielle, because you easily could have said, "I'm not interested. Like, that's not my job.
Right.
I'm doing this. I don't need to do, anything extra." You didn't have to do that, but you did. And so kudos to you.
Yay.
Yay.
Yes.
Yes.
I also will tell you, Danielle looked at your website. I looked at the website. I looked at the training. And I think that was why we were just pulled in by it. And that helped us to know, yes, this will be appropriate to try with Danielle. Yes, this is appropriate to try with some of my other patients. So we had a good motivation to use it, but seeing the videos and hearing from the patients, the therapists just really clinched it for us, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why, interviews like this are important because, Danielle, you're going to end up helping someone else, the next
Good.
person just by
I'll
doing
tell
this
you who
interview.
helped me, Benga. I'm sorry, I don't know her name. You have a video somewhere on your website. I think it was part of a Zoom conference. And it was a young girl, like she was about 25. She was in a wheelchair. She had a grand mal seizure. And she had been wearing it for about 3 weeks. I can't remember her name, but I'm sure it just caught me because she walked and she said, I'm walking. I don't even have to think about it. I'm walking. And I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, I need that. Because you think of every little step. That is what sold me. I think I even sent that to Sue. I was like, yeah, she sold me. This is it.
That is incredible.
I
That's
actually have
incredible.
a lot of reassessments that I did for Danielle. So besides videos, so I have clear clinical numbers of improvements of functional measures. So before she got the NewGait, when I first started seeing you, Danielle, you were, as you said, you were not walking outside to take an exercise walk. You couldn't do it. You were holding your husband's hand and really only walking from the car into a building. You weren't taking walks for recreation. And that was
Right.
something that you really wanted to do. You were not able to stand on one leg, do a single leg stance. You weren't able to do a tandem stance with one foot in front of the other. These are all without holding on. You were not able to stand with your feet together. That was all very difficult for you. So with the NewGait toward the end, so that was the middle of February, beginning to middle of February, this past February, when I started to see you. At the end of April, with tandem stance with one foot in front of the other, with your left leg behind, you did it for 10 seconds. With your right leg behind, you did it for 20 seconds. And that's amazing. And you are able to now, wearing the NewGait, stand on each leg for 3 seconds. Whereas before, you could not stand on either leg at all. You couldn't even attempt to lift your leg, let alone balance. And I did some balance questionnaires, the ABC, that activities of balance scale. So for the ABC, the activities of balance and confidence, you were, before the NewGait, 31% confident that you would not lose your balance. And since you got the NewGait and we're training with the NewGait, wearing it, you were at 53% confidence that you wouldn't lose your balance. So from 31% to 53%. Even when you don't have the NewGait now on, you are even higher. You are at 33% instead of the 31%. Okay. So there is that carryover. I also did a DGI, which is a functional balance scale. Before you got the NewGait, your values came to 6 out of 24, and now you're at 14 out of 24. So overall, you have a lower risk of falling, and you're more functional. I also did the TUG, the timed up and go test. Before you trained with the NewGait, you were walking at 19 and a half seconds, where you walk 10 feet, turn and come back and sit. And wearing the NewGait, you're at 17 and a half seconds. So you gained the 2 seconds speed. It also shows that when you were able to turn, when you turned, you had more balance as well. The lower extremity functional scale, the LEFS, before you got a NewGait, you had a 37 out of 80 score. They asked different questions and you answered how difficult each task was, each functional task. So before you got the NewGait, you were at 37 out of 80 questions. With the NewGait, you were at 46 out of 80. So you felt less difficulty with that functional tasks that you do throughout your day. The fact that you can walk 8/10 of a mile is amazing because you were not doing any walks at all. So functionally, major changes. You've also told me that you can now garden a little bit and without falling, and you couldn't garden at all
No,
before.
couldn't walk in the yard.
Right. So to be able to walk on the grass, to actually do some gardening, I know that Rodney took some video of you doing that, which is wonderful. So you're back to doing some recreational tasks
Yeah.
that was your goal, and you probably never thought you'd even be able to achieve that.
Not anymore, no.
So in my practice as a physical therapist, I'm always so encouraged when I see improvements after so many years. And that I think is so exciting for you, so that you've got so many other goals that you can really hope to achieve and work toward. The amazing part for you is that you do get that carryover. And that was one thing you noticed the first day we put it on, you felt better. But then immediately when you took this off, Danielle, you felt better. You knew, okay, this is what good posture feels like. I know how to correct it. This is what I need to do when I'm walking around the stairs. I can correct this now. And each time you use it, it sounds like you get more carryover and more carryover, so that you don't need to wear it all day. And that's not the goal. You want to be able to get that improvement in stability on your own. So very exciting to see all the improvements.
Thank you, Sue. You know what? The carryover, sometimes it lasts for like an hour. You know, it's not equal to the time I use it, but I really truly feel it is retraining. It's going to take a little while, but you're right. I see differences already. I feel them already. Like when I don't have it, if I start leaning forward and gripping my toes, I know to align myself more, my hips, my shoulders, and put the weight down, you know, more in my heels. So I'm steady. Yeah. So I think it's going to take a while, but there is definitely carryover and retraining happening.
And it just shows there's neuroplasticity. Your brain can be retrained even after 10 years. And I think that's the most exciting thing for all of us. I also noticed before you use the NewGait, your left toes would tighten up and spasm and curl. And as soon as you put the NewGait on, you said to me, my toes are relaxed.
Right.
And that allows you to be able to balance with every functional task that you're doing and standing and walking. So that's a big change. So the tone, we actually affected your spasticity and tone in your legs so that you were able to relax and then move better.
Mally, do you have any questions for either Sue or Danielle?
Yeah, I was just taking notes. I mean, this is wonderful. I am a researcher, right? I'm just always constantly thinking about ideas on one is how to improve the device, right? And what are the mechanisms that is kind of one of the key reasons to not able to actually progress in advancing the device related to robotics or technologies or so forth is because we don't understand the mechanisms very well, right? So I'm trying to turn my brain to understand the mechanisms that could be mediating it so that we can target those specifically with the device, right? Just to get a better understanding, Sue or Danielle, this may be a question either one of you can answer. So it was a hemorrhagic stroke. Do you know the location, like which part of it?
It was in my brain stem.
Oh, it was in a brainstem. Okay, good. So that's what I was thinking. Like, why is the balance so much affected? I mean, of course, balance is affected, but the way that you were portraying it, yeah, I assume. Okay, it's a brainstem. That's good to know. How would you like, Sue? I mean, kudos to you. I mean, the one thing that I always miss, these kind of assessments, objective assessments before and after, right? Like that is very, very crucial to understand. What are above clinically meaningful differences and what are like some random variations, right? This is amazing because always wanted to, and this is something we should talk, like you have a lot of good data set and we might be able to do depends on how much you are interested, right? We might be able to do a case report, right? As a publication manuscript, because this is always a missing part in clinic is objective metrics are not very well documented. And so it becomes a difficult situation for us to, we cannot write a manuscript. Manuscript has a profound impact because a lot of researchers read it. It has a broader impact on, reaching out to people, right? And of course, right, like Danielle, I mean, we will get you a consent before it. there'll be no identity of you will be revealed. Nothing will be revealed. It will all be like completely like just called as a stroke survivor, and your age
Mhm.
and some basic demographics are the only ones that will be revealed. But again, if only all parties are interested, I can help because I'm a scientist, right? I can help in that process of getting a publication. The questions for you, Sue, is how would you classify her level of impairment in terms of, I don't know if you are aware of Fugel-Meyer score. Often clinicians don't do that because there is no reimbursement scheme, and it takes 20 25 minutes to 45 minutes depending on if you're doing both upper and lower extremity. But if I had to say on a scale of 1 to 10, Danielle, you can also pitch in, like what would you say like your level of impairment in terms of stroke?
So I would probably say probably an 8 out of 10, a moderate impairment.
With 8 being with 10 being no impairment, or with 10 being maximum impairment?
Maximal impairment.
Oh, okay. So you would say quite a bit of impairment. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But what do you think, Danielle?
You know what? That is the exact number I had in my mind because I thought, well, I could have been a lot worse. I'm talking, I'm able to walk, get around. So I was thinking the same thing. I think you're right on with that.
Yeah, but let me rephrase the question to see if you would tweak your numbers, right? If say I would just use the scale in your, because I was asking in the reverse scale, but I will keep the scale in the way that you have, right? With 1 being absolutely normal. Okay, no, I mean, like it's like pre-stroke level, or 0. Let's put it as 0, right? And then 10 being like you cannot move your arm, you cannot move your leg, you are wheelchair bounded, you're basically dependent on others for all activities. So if I give that range, where will you put it? Now, Sue, do you want to recalibrate your number? And Danielle, do you want to recalibrate your number?
I'd probably go like 5 or, like 5.
Okay.
Like,
and
could be.
how would you, Sue?
I would say probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
I think, Danielle, you're very impaired functionally with
Okay.
functional tasks. I can go back and look at strength, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, my muscle strength will also give an idea of in terms of now, Daniel, would you say that it is more upper extremity, more lower extremity, both equal, or one more than the other?
It's definitely lower because of the balance and walking.
Okay.
But I have lost considerable strength. As I said before, I can't lift a lot.
Okay. And how is your
balance
hand
or your
functions?
No, I think just from not using it. I mean, I'm a pretty strong person. Like when I exercise before with some weights, I can still do them, but a lot of times, like I'll just notice, say in my kitchen, picking up a cast iron skillet. Can't do it just with my left. I have to support it with my right. So, I mean, but I would definitely still say it's left. I mean, I go to a doctor's, or even I would see Sue and they would say, well, like, they did that thing where you put your hand on my thigh and say, don't, or push against me, or don't let me push you. I have the strength to do that. It's there. It's just, I don't know. Sue, what can you help me with?
So your ankle and knee strength, normal. Your right leg, your hip abductors, so out to the side, was a 4 out of 5. And then the rest of the muscles in the right leg are normal. Your left leg, I would say 4+ out of 5. Except the left hip flexor to lift the knee up was a 4 out of 5. So I would say some impairments in hip strength on both sides, a little bit worse on the left than the right. So all of your muscles in the left leg, I would say a 4+, except the left hip flexor is a 4. So that has to do with how much resistance I give you.
Okay.
So again, the right leg, your strong leg, normal strength, except the right hip abductors are a 4 out of 5. So you did have some weakness there.
Okay, and you had a left-sided stroke, right? If I understand it correctly.
Well,
affected the left side.
Left side.
Yes.
And with your hand, can you do like functions independently? So that
I have decreased sensation. That's about it. Like
okay.
my muscles will do whatever I want them to do. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not, it could be a lot worse. The only
Okay.
thing I notice with my left hand is like if I reach to my left to grab something, I won't grab it unless I actually see it in my
Okay.
hand because I don't feel it all the way. But that's it. They do everything I want them to do.
And so
And your
that
left leg, you have some decreased sensation in your left leg a little bit compared to the right.
okay, got it.
My whole
So
left side.
in terms of, and let me understand, right? So she has all of these improvements that she is feeling is after rehab has plateaued, right? So in terms of it, like trying to understand, she has been taking PT before, and so she has kind of improved whatever she could before, and she has kind of plateaued, and this improvement is above her plateau, if I understand it correctly, right?
Yes.
Okay. And given her, I mean, the location of stroke and also the muscle strength, which appears to be, reasonably good, right? Like it's not like a 1 or a 2. It almost feels like to me that most of her balance improvement is from sensory cues that the device is providing her in terms of proprioceptive and sensory feedback it is giving. Is my understanding correct, or do you have a
That
different theory?
that is true, but also if your core strength is decreased. So
Okay.
your abdominals, your back extensors, your core strength is decreased. And because of that, with the ataxia, the shakiness that Danielle has, that gave her a lot of instability and
Okay.
weakness. And that would tire very quickly. With the NewGait, it gave her trunk stability and supported her where her core was weak and also fatigue. So there's also a fatigue factor for Danielle as well. So
Okay.
when you get tired, this will help to support you when your
Okay.
muscles can't do what you need them to do, right, Danielle?
Yes.
So that fatigue issue is also an issue, whether it's day to day and it changes your spasticity and your weakness changes could be changing hour to hour or changing day to day depending on what you've already done, what time of day, what the weather is, as you said, and having the ability to modify the NewGait is wonderful because you can modify something in the hip, something on the foot, something on the core, the waist belt, something with all the other pieces. So that I think for you has been very helpful. But I think because of your weakness in your core, this has greatly helped to stabilize you.
Okay. And I also like I'm also a functional guy, right? Like while we do manual muscle strengths, which are done in a very static posture, we don't know how the functional strength is affected when you actually do, something like walking, which is engaging multiple muscles together, or balance, right? And in that sense, your neural input to the muscles could be affected differently. And so, I mean, it's a very hard thing to assess because there is no clear way of measuring those functional strength differences, right? And maybe that is helping over there. And when you used NewGait on Danielle, I'm assuming you would have used it bilaterally, right? You never tried it unilateral. It was always bilateral, right? Like both sides.
Yes, for Danielle, yes, always both sides. Although the bands on the left had to be different colors than the right
Different
side.
colors. And
yes.
Okay, and I'm assuming it would be more stronger than the right side, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And along those lines, if I ask you if the bands can provide both resistance and assistance, right? Because it can help in lifting, but when it is helping in lifting, it is providing resistance to the plantar flexors, right?
Right.
So,
And because of that, I think that's where the strengthening comes through as well for Danielle, that it's a strengthening exercise as well and a
okay.
supportive exercise.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. So do you
So
feel like it is both, like it's both the assistance and the resistance is actually helping, or is it one versus the other?
It's both. Danielle and I have talked about this because Danielle, you've said that you feel like it's assisting you, but also resisting. So I think it's a good device to use to give you strength where you need it and train your body, as well as, which in turn will help your fatigue. So the stronger you are, the less fatigue you're going to have overall. So I think it's both support and assistance and resistance, right?
I think so too. I remember at your in-service, one of the therapists asked me that exact question, and that's what I said. It's both.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, because that's one question that we are also trying to answer, right? Like, which component is, because we can then tweak it based on that component, right? Like, it's all great feedback. And so, one of the things that we constantly see, even in our preliminary data that we use for our grant, the biggest difference that we see is on ABC. Mm-hmm. It has the most largest effect size in our thing. It almost everybody feels that improves their balance and confidence in doing various activities, which is almost like amazing, right? Like, because it's always good to see when it is something is very repeatable, because that is a true effect rather than some sort of cursory effect that happens, right? Like, just due to randomness.
Right, and we know that confidence affects function. Yep. And to be at 31% before versus 53% is huge.
Yep, precisely the data that we saw on, like, 6-stroke subjects, that it's not, this is the beauty. So that was our therapist at Michigan. They used it on stroke participants for like 6 to 8 weeks, somewhere up to even 12 weeks. And all of these assessments were done before and after without the NewGait. And so pretty much everything was like, in your case, like right now during NewGait, it increases substantially, and then it slightly increased without the NewGait, right? But that number actually went up with continued use, which is also very interesting and promising, because, the effects are not only present with the device, right? Because the other thing that we are thinking is this an assistive device or is it a rehab device, right? Because there is a difference, right? Assistive devices are purely like AFO. It helps you in assistance. You remove it, that's it. You don't gain any benefit of it, right? Whereas a rehab device is, you use it, you gain function, but eventually when you remove it, that carryover effect, right? Which sustains and stays, right? Which is really good. And Danielle, for you, the question for me is, what would you, and this could be for both, right? The one nice thing is the cost is reasonable for you to be able to procure, right? Because some of the robotic devices that I work with are like either $60,000 to $100,000 or $300,000 to $500,000. We can neither expect a clinic or a patient to get this for themselves, right? And so from that perspective, so like, how often do you feel cost as a barrier with your patient, even with the current, like, even though it is costing, I don't know, Benga, like, 800,000, whatever that value is, I don't see that from commercial perspective, but whatever that number is, what do you feel like? Do you see a roadblock with some of the patients, or you don't see, because the cost to benefit is substantially higher?
I definitely see that cost is an issue. I had another patient that ordered just the dorsiflexion assist device, NewGait, and he was very happy with the cost out of pocket and felt that the benefits really were so exciting for him after trying it in therapy with me, that he bought that, and he uses it every day now and no longer uses his AFO. So this has taken the place of his AFO.
Oh, okay. That is awesome, because that is one thing we are trying, Benga and I we wanted to create a AFO only, tailor it more. We want to put a grant that is like, make this AFO alone like a much better standalone piece rather than the current AFOs, which a lot of people, as you know, a lot of them hate it. Even though it's very functional, they just don't like it.
Doctor, you were talking about the AFO. Sue knows that I had an AFO, was called the walk-on. And like I said, it just prevented my heel, or I guess my ankle, from flexing. And so after I fell back in September, I was like, that's it. I don't want this. I threw it in the trash. And Sue had asked me about it, like towards my last few appointments. And she said something about, do you still have it? And I said, I threw it in the trash. My husband said, I pulled it out of the trash. And he cleaned it up and gave it to Sue so they could use it as a sample or something. I was like, you pulled it out of the trash. He's like, yeah, that cost me $300 or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah,
I hated
exactly,
that
right?
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Given that you have reasonable arm function, so do you wear the NewGait by yourself, or do you still seek help from your husband?
No, I'm able to put it on. Sometimes I have issues with things in the back, my left. I have to, make sure I have the little clip on the right side of my hand. So, I'm like, okay, that's there and I can put it on the hook. The only thing I have trouble with, we found that if you I put a red strap on the gait belt and I take it up to what is that called? The harness keeper, that
the harness
circular
keeper.
thing. We
Yes.
put it on there because it helps me not to lean so much to the right. I can't do that one by myself because although I should
because
try
it's in the
it.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, I should try it though. If it's already hooked
Yeah.
in the circle, I could probably stretch it down, to one of the D-rings. I have just never tried it actually.
Yeah, that one would definitely be a tough one. The easiest way to do it would be to clip it onto the harness keeper first, and then
First, and then wear it.
stretch it down
Yeah.
to the belt. Yeah, but that one would be a difficult one to do on your own.
We are aware of it, and that's one thing that we are trying to do is we did this design sprints to revise and refine it so that how can we make it better for patients to be able to wear it themselves, right? Like especially when they have, some people are completely impaired on one side, they can only use their opposite arm, not their affected arm, right? And so in that situation, how can we make it? And we are, it's a work in progress. And then, if you have to tell, like, is there any activity or any function that you are able to do it now without wearing the device, but you are not able to do it before, right? Like I know you said like you can do a lot of like walking, being able to walk independently, and then like, the distance of walking, tandem stance, and so many other things, right? But those all I'm assuming is with the device, right? But do you like, is there something that you can do now that you are not able to do without wearing the device?
To tell you the truth, I haven't done a lot, like you said, maybe without it with a goal in mind, but just without it, I think I mentioned it before, just standing. Like I could always stand, but I couldn't stand in one place for a long time without, like I said, leaning forward or going over to the side. So that is getting better that I'm able to do that. Just a man.
Okay, that is without even wearing the device, correct?
Yes, that's what I mean. I think it's like you said, it was assistive, but it's retraining my body to resist it. Yeah.
Cool. And then in terms of improvements, right? Like if you would like to say, I mean, I know you said this back one, which is hard. Do you see something that like, it's comfort level or, I'm assuming it is comfortable. That's why you're wearing it and using it. But is there something that you think can be improved? Like if you want to give us feedback on.
Is there a band that's not as tight, even as the yellow? Sometimes I told you I play with mine a lot, and sometimes I feel like, let's take this yellow and off the front of my shin that pulls out my toe. But then if I do that, maybe that's totally too much without it. So I wish I had something in between that. You know what? I think it's great.
That's a very good point. Binga, you want to probably note it and we should, that's a great one, right? Because this is a new feedback that we haven't received.
We haven't heard this one before, So essentially a resistance level lower than the yellow band.
Yellow.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yellow being the lowest and then something under that. I've never used apparently you have blue ones that are real tight.
Yes, right? We recently discontinued them because they're just not used
right.
often.
I was going to say I've never used them. And I've only used I use one green band occasionally on lateral, like on my hip, the side.
Okay, the abduction.
On the left side. That's it. Just one. Maybe lower.
Cool. And Danielle, you said like that hip circumduction. Which band helped you in that?
Is it the lateral hip? You mean the
leg moving outside, kind of, right? Like when you walk.
Do you mean the color, or where?
Not the color, but where
the placement.
the
putting it
side.
placement. Yeah.
Is it called the lateral on the side from my
Oh, on the outer side
hip,
of the leg.
yeah, hip
And that
to
helped.
the side of me. Yes. Well, first when I went to therapy, when Sue first got it, we used both legs, all yellow. And from there, it's changed. At therapy, we went to red, and I was going up steps, and my left leg was still doing that circumduction. And I said, no, let's try green. It kind of reined it in more. So sometimes I wear that. Usually I'm wearing red, and I've like both leg. I always have all the bands on my left leg, except the one in the back now. And the right leg, I think I just have the ones on the hip, like the lateral and the front. I don't put it on the back. I haven't been putting it on my, like the shin or the calf. I don't even use those. So, I mean, like from therapy and just trying it, it had all the bands on it. And now I'm finding like, I don't think I need that, or I need something more here. And that feedback to me and knowing my body is, is good. Like I said, when my husband recorded me walking the one time, I could see it. I was like, what? I could feel like my right foot like extending and my left wasn't. So I knew right away something was off, and we could see it then on his phone. And so I just experimented. Actually, I called my sister-in-law, who's a physical therapist, and I sent her the video, and I said, what is making me do this? And she said, it's either the one on the back of your thigh or the one that's lifting up on your toe. And I said, okay. So I tried the one on the back, and I'm able to like get a full extension now with my left when I walk.
And when you say full extension, which part, like when you are hitting the ground at the time of heel contact, or?
Yes. And then I load onto it, it's straight.
Okay.
And it wasn't before. I was in like a mini squat, constantly taking little, short steps, and it was never fully
more like a crouched pattern.
Yeah, it was never fully extended. And the right leg, I could feel it. Like I thought, isn't that weird? Like my right leg is almost like kicking out, and I wasn't feeling it on the left, and just felt weird. So I knew that something
even
was
though
off.
you had the same band configuration on both sides, the left was feeling it.
I had the same at that point. I think I had the same band configuration. Okay. And then once I took the one off the back on both sides, well, I have taken them off the back on both sides now. But once I took it off the back of the left, I could immediately feel different.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one which would prevent the hyperextension, because what is happening is the bands are trying to keep your knee flexed. But in your case, you don't like that because you want to be able to nicely extend the leg.
Right. When you walk normally, like that is the little choppy steps was how I was walking, or how I walk without it or with anything. There's not a confidence there. It's just, let me take little steps so I don't fall over.
Cool. Yeah. And it's also surprising and interesting when you said like your hip circumduction, which is moving out, got improved when you actually put a band on the lateral side, because in theory, that's what should make it go more, because it's making your hip abduction to go out more, right? But in your case, you're saying that it is actually helping. So which also means that we have to think like how it is actually helping, because which is a very interesting thing that you said, because on theory, I would have imagined the opposite. In fact, 2 days ago when Benga and I were meeting, we were talking about like, what should be the configuration that we should be using to target that issue, right? And we were talking about different configurations, but we never would have imagined putting a band on the outside, right? Which is interesting. In your case, it's actually helping.
There is already a spot to put bands on the outside, but when I raise the resistance by putting the green one on, that it just really, it's too tight, I think, for my leg to go around. So when I'm getting tired, we'll start doing that. Like I'll walk with my husband, and then we go so far and then turn around, And on the way down, I'm tired. And then I just carry all the bands on me. I just clip them both ends on the rings. And then I can put the green one on, and that kind of, like I said, reins it in. It's just tight enough that it fights, my leg is fighting it, fighting against going out.
Great points. Yeah.
If you have anything else that you want to either add.
To just say that the company has been very supportive of me, and I've been able to do Zoom calls with staff from NewGait, with Benga, with Kim, as well as ask any questions I have, whether it be phone calls with Kim, as well as emails. I've been emailing you, Benga. So the support, I feel, has really made a difference in my learning the device and helping patients to use the device at its greatest potential. I think without the ability to reach out to you, it would have been a little more difficult because we had so many questions. But once you answered our questions, you were very supportive. And then I felt like I could get to that next level and try the device with so many different diagnoses, and really to benefit patients overall. So the support that you gave to us, we really appreciate it. And I know that Danielle also reached out to you. So your company is very open to having patients reach out directly to you, which is very exciting. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Thank you. Thank you. And one other note I want to make about you, Sue, is that typically, when we're working with other therapists, they will, and we introduce them to the NewGait, they'll have a particular type of patient in mind, and they will wait and wait and wait and wait and wait until that perfect patient comes along that they believe is a NewGait candidate. Now, I'm hearing something in you that I love to hear, that I hear in my clinicians, where you're using it on multiple diagnoses, you're using it on multiple patients. Your mindset is more open as to who can possibly benefit from the NewGait, and therefore you're introducing it to different people, more people, and therefore it is helping more people. And so I love to hear that.
Thank you. And also my fellow therapists also were very open to trying the NewGait device with various problems that they were dealing with their patients, to work with improving their function and improving the symptoms that they were finding in all different patients with different diagnoses. So that helped to open my mind as well. And I think doing the one-on-one in-service, the 2 sessions I did with my staff, really helped that. And then having Danielle be part of that also helped, so that they said, oh, well, if it helps Danielle with, maybe it'll help my other patient with the issue that they're having. And then once they experimented and used it, it just opened up their world as well.